Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Evening sunlight pours into the office through floor-to-ceiling windows, gilding Nathan Porter's workspace. He stood behind a wide, solid wood desk, his tall 6'2" frame making his figure stand out in the setting sunlight. 42-year-old Nathan was staring at his wife Sarah standing in front of him, pacing back and forth anxiously, her heels clacking crisply on the hardwood floor. The office walls are covered with architectural awards, a testament to Nathan's 20-year career. But for the moment, his steel-gray eyes stared at Sarah for an instant, as if trying to see through her well-rehearsed performance. "Aren't you going to say anything?" There was a piercing sharpness in Sarah's voice. She had expected to see tears or anger or pleading, but Nathan's silence threw her off balance. "About what?" Nathan's tone was calm to the point of near indifference as his eyes traveled over Sarah, noting the expensive designer suit she was wearing, still bought last week with his credit card. "Is this about your affair with Oliver, or about you stealing my design drawings?" Sarah's feet stuttered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure and tossed her long, perfectly styled dark hair. "Oh, so you know about Oliver. Good, that makes it easier to say." Her red lips curled into a mean smile. "That twin brother of yours, he has everything you don't. Stronger, better at enjoying life, and more satisfying." Nathan's expression was rippled, only noting the subtle shaking of her fingers as she spoke, a habitual movement he'd noticed 15 years ago when they'd first met, and one that appeared whenever she bluffed her way through the poker table. "Is that all?" he asked, his voice still smooth. Sarah's tone rose an octave. "I'm leaving you to be with your twin brother, and that's your reaction?" "That's it." She walked briskly to her desk, her heels sounding like she was declaring an ultimatum. "Oliver has promised me a substantial stake in your family's engineering firm. We're moving into his beach house, the one you can't afford because you're too focused on your work ethic." The corners of Nathan's mouth twitched slightly, his gaze as sharp as a knife blade. "That villa bought with the company's misappropriated funds? Interesting choice." Sarah's face changed instantly, but she quickly adjusted. "You're lying? You're just jealous that Oliver knows how to enjoy life while all you do all day is obsess over those damn bridges of yours." "Those damn bridges of mine," Nathan repeated, his tone sarcastic. "Pay for every single thing you're wearing right now." His gaze swept over her left hand. "Including the sapphire ring Oliver gave you last month. You think I didn't notice?" Sarah instinctively covered her left hand with her right, but then forced herself to calm down. "Your parents have approved of our relationship. They understand that Oliver is the one who should really be running the company. They're just not afraid to say it publicly yet." Nathan turned to the computer, the action itself a silent dismissal. "If you're done, you can leave. I have work to do." "Work?" Sarah spat, her voice full of contempt. "That damn earthquake-resistant bridge design of yours. Oliver said that design was simply majorly flawed." She pressed closer to the desk. "You're a pathetic workaholic, Nathan. A pathetic workaholic who doesn't know how to satisfy a woman or enjoy life. Oliver is 100 times better than you." "Interesting theory." Nathan's fingers tapped on the keyboard, the calm sound emphasizing his indifference. "Close the door for me on your way out." Sarah froze in place for a few moments, her carefully prepared confrontation falling apart in the face of Nathan's calm demeanor. Finally, she turned away angrily, slamming the door so hard it shook the metals on the wall. Nathan waited 5 minutes, listening to Sarah's car start up and leave. That's when he opened his encrypted email and sent a long written email to a contact in the FBI's white-collar crime investigation division. That night, in his private study, an untouched glass of single malt scotch sat on the table as Nathan watched the security system's surveillance footage. Despite the darkness outside, the infrared camera provided a clear picture. He played back the evidence of betrayal documented over the months. On February 14th, at 2 a.m., Oliver and Sarah had entered his home office with a key obtained from a source not authorized by him. On March 3rd, Oliver shoots papers at his desk while Sarah keeps a lookout. The April 17th video shows the two men operating his computer, with Sarah calling to falsely distract him with a production crisis and Oliver installing certain programs on his computer. Nathan originally installed the security system because of a number of thefts targeting important engineering drawings. He outwardly claims it's just a paranoia, but in reality, he noticed the anomalies months ago. Sarah's unexplained outings, Oliver's sudden interest in his projects, and traces of computer files being accessed while he was away at a conference. The footage confirms his every suspicion his twin brother isn't just cheating on him with his wife. They're conspiring to steal his groundbreaking bridge design, one that could revolutionize the future of earthquake zone construction. A knock on the door interrupted his replay. Nathan checks the security panel, and it's Alexandra Wilson. The close friend and company counselor he had known for 20 years was less confident at the moment, replaced by an air of nervousness and unease that was clearly visible through the camera. "Come in, Alexandra," Nathan said, but didn't get up to greet her, just noticed the way she clutched her designer handbag as if it were a shield. "Nathan, I have something to tell you," Alexandra spoke, her voice tight. She remained standing, her knuckles white from gripping the strap of her bag so hard. "It's about Oliver. Let me save you some time." Nathan turned the monitor so she could see the security feed. "6 months ago, Oliver approached you about transferring my patents into the name of a shell company he created. You agreed to help him, even though you knew it was illegal and against the professional ethics expected of you as my attorney." Alexandra's face instantly turned pale. "How did you know?" Nathan's smile was icy cold. "I knew it all along. I just wanted to see how far you guys could go. Apparently a long way." "Nathan, please let me explain." Alexandra spoke, her voice shaking. "Oliver said it was from your parents, that they were concerned about your mental state. He had papers, forged papers." Nathan's voice remained calm, but Alexandra instinctively took a step back. "Save your explanations, Alexandra, and you can go. You'll get a notice from the Bar Association first thing in the morning." "You can't do this to me." Alexandra's composure completely disintegrated and her voice choked. "We've been friends for 20 years, and I was at your wedding." "Yes, you did participate." Nathan turned back to the monitor, his tone unfluctuating. "Which makes your betrayal particularly interesting from a legal and ethical standpoint. I'm sure the disciplinary board will find it fascinating." Without looking up, he said, "Close the door on your way out." Alexandra froze in place for a few moments, her lips opening and closing noiselessly, before finally fleeing and leaving the study. Nathan waited until he heard her car leave before picking up his cell phone. A few clicks opened an encrypted communication program and he typed, "All proceeding as planned. Phase 2 to be initiated tomorrow." The reply appeared immediately, "FBI team standing by. Operation will begin at 0900 hours." Nathan finally picked up his whiskey and took a small sip, contemplating tomorrow's board meeting. His parents and Oliver will definitely be in attendance, no doubt ready to force him to take a long vacation. They were completely unaware that they were walking into a trap that he had been laying for years. The phone vibrates again. It's Sarah calling, probably wanting to make more dramatic proclamations. Nathan hit mute without even looking. Now he has more surveillance footage to check. Everyone who betrayed him will soon learn who they really underestimated. The Hart Engineering Group's headquarters building occupies the top 3 floors of this skyscraper and is one of Nathan's early career design masterpieces. He arrived 10 minutes before the scheduled 10 a.m. board meeting, dressed in a well-tailored dark gray suit and with a calm demeanor. As he walked into the executive conference room, a silence fell over the room. Nathan's parents, William and Eleanor Hart, were seated at the head of the long table, with Oliver sitting beside them. All 3 froze at the sight of Nathan appearing, surprise and guilt written all over their faces. William was the first to come around, and his outward enthusiasm couldn't disguise his inner turmoil. "Considering what happened with Sarah, we didn't think you'd be here today. We thought you might need some time to adjust." Nathan carefully placed his briefcase on the table. "Before we discuss my marriage, I think we should take care of some corporate business. Specifically," his gaze swept over everyone in the room, "it's about unauthorized access to my design drawings, attempts to steal patents, and Oliver's creation of shell companies used to sell my work to competitors." Oliver lurched to his feet, his expensive suit unable to hide his flabby physique. "You're lying." "Father, mother, he's obviously having a nervous breakdown. This is exactly what I warned you about." "Interesting reaction," Nathan said calmly, removing a thick folder from his briefcase. Usually, an innocent person would first ask what evidence there is, rather than immediately shouting denial. Want to see the evidence, Oliver? I have plenty. Alexandra interjects from around the table. I'm sure it's some sort of misunderstanding. Oliver's always been concerned about you. Worried that you're working too many hours and getting too paranoid about security. The FBI doesn't think so. Nathan looked at his watch. In fact, they're particularly interested in the corporate espionage case. They should be here soon. As if to confirm his words, the door to the conference room opened and two men in suits walked in, followed by a team of agents in FBI jackets. One of the agents stepped forward and showed his credentials. I'm Special Agent Thompson. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of corporate espionage, wire fraud, and embezzlement. This is ridiculous. Oliver took a few steps back. Father, do something. William stood up, his face reddening. Nathan, stop this right now. He's your brother. Once my brother, Nathan replied coldly. Now he's just another corporate criminal about to face federal charges. I recommend full cooperation with the investigation. Agent Thompson's team needs to see all corporate records. You can't do this, Oliver's voice shattered, and as the agents approached him, he pleaded, Mother, tell him. But Eleanor turned to Nathan with tears in her eyes. Please, honey, he's your twin brother. We can work this out as a family. Family, Nathan repeated, flashing an icy smile. Interesting choice of words. Agent Thompson, I'm sure you'll be particularly interested in this evidence. The files are in a folder on the desk. The agents handcuffed Oliver, and his protests echoed down the hallway. William and Eleanor sat dumbfounded as they watched the FBI agents begin to set up the equipment around them. Just then, Marcus Reed strides into the conference room, a stack of papers in his hand. As a lead project manager for Hart Engineering Group, Marcus has always coveted higher positions. Directors, he said with deliberate concern in his voice, I've discovered some serious problems regarding Nathan's bridge design. He began distributing documents. There are fatal errors in these calculations that could lead to catastrophic consequences if not caught in time. Nathan noted the time of modification marked on the documents Marcus handed to each board member. Mr. Reed, can you explain why these documents show that they were modified at 11:47 last night? Marcus was slightly flustered. I'm just doing formatting. Interesting. Nathan gestured toward his assistant, Emily, who began distributing new folders to each board member. Before we ask questions, maybe people should look at this material. The room fell silent again as the directors opened their folders and Sarah tried to crane her neck to read the contents, but her composure was disintegrating as she watched the others' expressions change from confusion to shock and finally to anger. The chairman of the board looked up and stared at Marcus. Mr. Reed, would you like to explain these bank transfer records and emails of kickbacks received? It's not. Marcus' face turned gray. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's all Nathan's delusional accusations. The allegations are supported by exhaustive evidence, Nathan said calmly, which has been given to the FBI's Financial Crimes Investigations Division. They should be here just in time. As soon as the words left his mouth, the door to the conference room opened again and two FBI agents walked in. The lead agent flashed his ID. Marcus Reed, please come with us. This is crazy. Marcus took a few steps back. Sarah, tell them about Nathan's mental state. But Sarah had moved toward the door, her carefully disguised concern having been replaced by naked fear as she finally realized how much they had underestimated Nathan. Mrs. Reed, another agent called out, please stay in touch. We will be questioning you afterward regarding your role in these events. Nathan watched silently as Marcus was taken away in handcuffs, his protests echoing through the corridors like Oliver's voice had earlier in the day. The directors are still sitting there, shocked, digesting the evidence of fraud and kickbacks over the years. So, Nathan stood up and straightened his tie. Shall we discuss the true status of the project? I'm sure you'll find that all calculations have been accurately verified with certifications from independent organizations. His gaze swept over the shocked board members. Does anyone else have questions about my mental state? The conference room was silent, the only sound being the rustle of papers being turned over. Everyone in the room realized that the man in front of them, The engineer they had always thought would just bury his head in the sand had actually orchestrated the perfect counterattack. From this moment on, no one will ever doubt Nathan Porter's abilities. Not only does he design the perfect bridge, he also weaves an impenetrable web of vengeance. As night falls, Nathan's home security system sounds a silent alarm. Surveillance footage shows two figures approaching the house, apparently Oliver and Sarah, who have been granted bail, and they move with the haste characteristic of desperate people. Nathan watched from his study as they used Sarah's key to open his home office, neither noticing that the silent alarm had been triggered or the camera that was recording their every move. "Find the designs, Oliver," Sarah's voice tightened, her short stay in prison clearly affecting her appearance. The carefully applied makeup was gone, replaced by gauntness and anxiety. "We have to destroy the originals until the FBI has processed all the evidence." She frantically pulled open a drawer, papers clattering to the floor. "Not in the safe." "Wait." Her fingers trembled as she pointed to a stack of papers on her desk. Oliver grabbed the papers and began tearing them out with his hands, too eager to use the shredder. "As soon as they're gone, the accusation of theft becomes our testimony against his. We can still make it look like he's having a delusional episode." The door to the office suddenly buzzed heavily with the activation of an electronic lock, and as the two intruders turned around, a bright light instantly filled the room. "Police. Hands up so we can see your hands." Nathan watches through the camera as Oliver and Sarah are handcuffed. When they realized that the design drawings they had just torn apart were just obvious bait, their expressions changed from shock to fear. The actual plans and all the evidence were moved off-site for safekeeping months ago, along with multiple backups. His cell phone rang, an incoming call from the police chief. "Mr. Porter, we have captured two intruders. Would you like to press charges?" "The FBI will want to add this to their existing case," Nathan replied calmly. "I'll send the security footage immediately." After hanging up, he continues to watch as Oliver and Sarah are taken to different police cars. Their betrayal was complete, and now it was their turn to be overthrown. The next morning, the federal courthouse looked stately in the morning light. By the time Oliver is brought into the interrogation room, his designer suit has been exchanged for a prison uniform, his former strut turned into a hobble, and the shackles on his hands and feet clank. Outside, the media swarmed, camera flashes flashing as reporters shouted questions about corporate espionage and misappropriation of funds. Nathan and Special Agent Thompson stood in the observation room behind the one-way glass and watched as Oliver was led to the interrogation seat. The 3-month investigation revealed far more serious offenses than the initial patent theft. "Your brother's been busy," Thompson said, looking over the file. "We traced over $12 million in misappropriated funds. That beach house? Built entirely with company money, laundered through shell companies." Nathan watched Oliver fidget as the handcuffs rattled crisply on the metal tabletop. "How long is the sentence?" he asked in a flat tone. "Considering the scale of the crime? At least 10 years to start." "The corporate espionage charge alone?" Thompson glanced at Nathan. "He offered to turn in your parents in exchange for leniency." "Of course they do," Nathan sneered, "always trying to save themselves by betraying others." The door to the interrogation room opened and Oliver's newest attorney, the third since his arrest, walked in, clutching thick plea agreement papers. A flicker of desperate hope surfaced on Oliver's face, but it quickly faded when the FBI's financial crimes investigators began presenting evidence. Bank records, wire transfer vouchers, emails, and security footage. This is a complete case that started with Nathan's initial evidence and grew into something much larger. "Your brother's crying," Thompson observed. Nathan turned away from the observation window. "Send me the transcript when you're done. I have a meeting to go to." Meanwhile, Sarah Porter, now Sarah Winters, is pacing back and forth on the marble floor of her attorney's office, the sound of her heels revealing restlessness. Her perfect appearance is cracked, her mascara is smudged, her nail polish is peeling, and she's wearing last year's styles. "This is ridiculous." She slammed the divorce papers down on the mahogany table. "He wants me to have nothing and 15 years of marriage to end like this." Her lawyer, a tired woman in her 50s, sighed. "Mrs. Porter." "Ms. Winters," Sarah interrupted. "I've changed my maiden name back." The attorney spread his hands. Considering the evidence of your involvement in Oliver Porter's crimes and the documented infidelity, you're lucky Mr. Porter didn't file criminal charges. Lucky? Sarah laughed, hysteria in her voice. Oliver's going to jail. His beach house was seized. And I'm supposed to feel lucky? You committed adultery with your husband's twin brother and assisted him in stealing millions of dollars worth of intellectual property. The lawyer's tone became harsher. The prenuptial agreement clearly states that infidelity results in the loss of all marital property rights. You would be well advised to take the matter in. Before what? Sarah leaned forward, desperation in her voice. I knew something about Nathan, something that could hurt him. Tell him I want to see him. Tell him I can help him understand why all this is happening. The lawyer stood up. Mr. Porter's instructions are clear. All communication must be done through an attorney. Now, shall we go over the terms of the settlement? Sarah slumped in her chair, finally breaking down. I never thought about him. He's been so quiet, so focused on his work. I never thought he could. What can it be? Fight back? The attorney put away the divorce papers. You have 24 hours to consider these terms. After that, Mr. Porter will proceed with full litigation and present all evidence of your crimes to the prosecutor. Sarah's hand trembled as she took the papers. Outside the office window, rain began to pound on the glass. Nathan sits quietly in the U.S. Attorney's office, listening to the latest developments in the case. Prosecutor Jane Matthews is explaining in detail what Oliver's plea deal entails. Considering the evidence, he agreed to plead guilty. Matthews looked over the papers. 10 years in prison, full restitution, and cooperation with the ongoing investigation. He tried to imply that you had mental problems, claiming that the charges were all in your delusional mind, but the evidence proved everything. Nathan kept his face impassive. Do you need me to testify? No need. Matthews closed the file. Honestly, Mr. Porter, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never seen anyone gather evidence so completely. You saw this day coming, didn't you? Nathan stood up, the corners of his mouth turning up slightly. I believe it's always wise to be prepared. As he walked out of the federal building, his cell phone vibrated once again. A voicemail message from Sarah, filled with tearful pleas. He deleted it straight away and didn't play it. In his briefcase, the revolutionary bridge design was awaiting final approval. The future belongs to those who know how to plan. A year later, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the mist onto Nathan Porter's innovative bridge design. The smooth curves of the bridge gleam in the morning light, and the silhouette of the mountains in the distance becomes clear. Construction crews were making final safety checks, journalists were setting up cameras, dignitaries were arriving, and there was an air of anticipation throughout the opening ceremony. The bridge represents a major breakthrough in earthquake-resistant construction and has already attracted the attention of the global engineering community. Experts from all over the world gathered to discuss the revolutionary design in hushed tones. Nathan stood at the makeshift lectern, his suit immaculate, his gaze calmly sweeping over the scene before him. A suited journalist raised his microphone, his lenses reflecting in the sunlight. Mr. Porter, what's it like to see your designs come to life? Especially after all that last year. Dramatic events. Nathan gazed at the masterpiece before him, the bridge that had cost his betrayer everything. The sun shone on the reinforced concrete structure, reflecting a blinding light. It feels like justice, he replied calmly, a hint of satisfaction in his voice that he could only detect in himself. The ceremony went well. Politicians took turns at the lectern making grandiose speeches extolling the importance of the project to the city's development. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was held as scheduled, and the red ribbon snapped in response to the golden scissors. Flashbulbs were going off and on as photographers raced to capture the historic moment. No one in the speech mentioned Oliver, who was serving a federal prison sentence, his once polished suit replaced with a prison uniform. No one talks about Sarah, who, after accepting a harsh divorce settlement, flees to the other side of the country to try to rebuild her life. No one is talking about William and Eleanor Hart, the former socialites now living in obscurity after their financial crimes came to light. And no one mentions Alexandra, whose once illustrious legal career went up in smoke when she lost her license for ethics violations. Nathan stood at the lectern and swept his eyes over the audience below. He saw the directors who stayed on, those who promptly proved they had nothing to do with Oliver's crimes. Their applause was particularly loud, as if to express their loyalty in this way. Emily Chan stood by, one of the few people who hadn't betrayed him from the beginning and was now a senior executive at the company. This bridge represents a major breakthrough in engineering, Nathan said in his remarks. It not only withstands earthquakes, it symbolizes resilience and adaptability. Sometimes the biggest challenges often come from unexpected places, and our response made all the difference. The audience on stage applauded enthusiastically, and no one sensed the deeper meaning behind the words. 5 years on, Nathan Porter's tale of revenge has become legendary in the engineering world. It is discussed privately in board meetings and studied in business ethics classes at prestigious universities. But the point of this story is not a cautionary tale about betrayal, but a profound lesson. Never underestimate the quiet people who keep detailed records and are prepared for every eventuality. Nathan, 46, stands in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of his top-floor office, the entire floor of which belongs to the Hart Engineering Group headquarters. The afterglow of the setting sun gilds the city skyline, and the glass facades of the skyscrapers reflect the brilliant light. His presence is more awe-inspiring than ever. The silver in his temples adds to his mature charm, and the victories add sharp edges to his success. The body under the suit remains in good shape, the result of his consistent morning runs. Under his leadership, the company tripled in size. Architects and engineers around the globe are adopting his innovative design concepts. The walls of his office are filled with awards and certificates of merit, but most notable is the large photograph of the bridge. Not only an engineering marvel, but a testament to his plan for revenge. Emily walks into the office, the tablet in her hand displaying the latest report. After proving her loyalty during the crisis, she has been promoted from general assistant to COO of the company. Each step of her promotion is a testament to strength, and like Nathan, she understands that success requires patience and precise planning. The latest report, Emily swiped the screen. Engineering Weekly named you the most influential structural engineer of the decade. Your approach to seismic design has become a required course in engineering schools around the world. We've signed new contracts on 3 continents, and revenue growth is exceeding expectations. Nathan nodded, his eyes sweeping over the ever-expanding silhouette of the city outside the window. These are his works, his legacy. What about Oliver? Still serving his sentence, Emily continued to report, a hint of coldness in her voice. His application for commutation has once again been denied. The prison reports that he spends most of his time in the library and keeps writing letters to people in the industry, but no one responds. He tried to publish a memoir claiming he was framed, but after our legal team spoke to publishers, no publisher would touch the project. How's Sarah doing? Working as a real estate agent in Phoenix, Emily said with a sarcastic smile at the corner of her mouth. She's failed in her 3rd attempt to get back into the luxury business. Whenever a potential client is interested in her, someone always stumbles upon those news stories about her involvement in corporate espionage. Last month, she tried to date another wealthy corporate executive, but the information we anonymously provided about her past quickly ended the relationship. Now she lives in a rundown apartment and drives a used car. Nathan walks over to his desk, which holds the latest issue of Engineering Innovation magazine. On the cover is his latest project, with a headline that says the design will change the future of modern architecture. Your parents are still living in that little condo in Florida, Emily continued to report. Mr. William has made several failed attempts to consult for other engineering firms. Apparently no one wants a tax evader advising them on their projects. Mrs. Eleanor was removed from the country club after her 3rd attempt to defend Oliver. She now spends most of her time alone at home. What about Alexandra? Her petition for reinstatement to the bar was denied. Emily's tone held a professional calm. The ethics committee received an anonymous package detailing the extent of her involvement in the patent theft case. Now she's working as a legal assistant in a small city in Nebraska, making just enough per month to pay her rent. Nathan sat in his customized leather chair and tapped his fingers on the desktop. On the table was an elaborate architectural model, the prototype of his next revolutionary design. How are the preparations going for the Society of Engineers annual dinner tonight? All set. You will receive the Lifetime Achievement Award. Emily paused. A couple of the directors suggested that you mention reconciliation with your family in your speech to show some forgiveness. They thought it would be good for the company's image. Interesting suggestion. There was a hint of sarcasm in Nathan's voice, especially considering that the directors only kept their positions because they proved their ignorance of Oliver's crimes in time. Emily's cell phone vibrates. She quickly scanned the message. Update from Phoenix. Sarah has lost another job because her new employer found out about her history. She has requested that her attorney contact you and wants to change the terms of her divorce settlement. The standard response has been sent, Nathan said, his voice calm and certain, and all terms are final and unalterable in accordance with Article 8.3 of the agreement. She also attached a personal note, Emily added, saying that she missed you and that she had changed and wanted a second chance. Nathan's chuckle was warmthless. 5 years have passed and she still thinks emotional manipulation can work. Forward the note to her psychiatrist, the one our investigators found out she's been cheating on. Let him know how honest his patients are when it comes to therapy. The sunlight outside the window faded to the golden red of sunset. Nathan picks up the architectural magazine on his desk with his latest completed project on the cover. The world has finally learned the truth. Never betray those who plot in the silence. Because when they strike back, there will be no warning, only precisely calculated destruction. As night falls, Nathan walks to the waiting limo. His suit was straight, his demeanor was calm, and the briefcase in his hand held his acceptance speech. A special place, a place with barred windows, will be mentioned in due course in the speech. Someone who once thought he could destroy Nathan Porter is now there for the long haul, and this is just the beginning. The limousine drove smoothly toward the Society of Engineers annual dinner venue, and Nathan Porter peered through the window at the bustling cityscape outside at night. The well-planned revenge of 5 years ago is now a mellow wine. His eyes skimmed over an upscale jewelry store down the road, remembering that Sarah used to be a regular there, and now she couldn't even get in the door. Emily sat across from him, checking the latest report on her tablet. Since proving her loyalty, she has grown from an ordinary assistant to the company's most capable executive. The latest Oliver report, she began, is that his third appeal was denied. Assuming good behavior, he has 5 years left on his sentence, but based on prison records, that seems unlikely. A few imperceptible smirks appeared at the corners of Nathan's mouth. Is his cellmate still providing information on a regular basis? Yes, Emily confirms with a nod. Oliver spends most of his time in the prison library, writing letters that will never be answered. He tried to contact his former business partners, but after being alerted by our legal team, no one dared to respond to him. His plans for his memoirs were also a complete failure, and no publisher was willing to take that risk. The car turned a corner and passed a used car dealership. Emily continues, Sarah is in a much more interesting situation right now. She's trying to rebuild her life in Phoenix, but every time she gets close to success, the past catches up with her. Last week, she had a hard time finding a potential high-end client, but that client just happened to receive an anonymous email with a detailed report about her involvement in corporate espionage. What happened to her third attempt at a comeback? Nathan asked, a hint of interest in his tone. Complete failure. Emily's tone held a professional calm. She tried to get back on her feet in the luxury industry, but we made sure that every potential employer knew about her ethics record. Now she's stuck working as a bottom feeder agent for a small real estate firm, driving a 10-year-old Ford and living in a rundown one-bedroom apartment. The limousine drives over an elegant bridge, one of Nathan's early works. Emily continued her debriefing. Your parents have an interesting situation in Florida as well. Mr. William recently made his 5th attempt at consulting for an engineering firm, but negotiations were immediately suspended after we anonymously provided his tax records. Apparently, no one wants a tax evader directing their projects. Where's Eleanor? Since the golf club delisting, her social circle has completely collapsed. Every time she tries to defend Oliver, someone offhandedly mentions the FBI investigation report. Now she spends most of her time alone in that small apartment and rarely even goes to the grocery store. Nathan looked out the window at the sweeping cityscape, the city he had helped rebuild. What about Alexandra? Working as a legal assistant in some small town in Nebraska, Emily said, scratching off a new report. Her application for reinstatement to the bar was denied. The Ethics Commission received an anonymous document detailing the extent of her involvement in the patent theft case. Now she's stuck with basic paperwork and a monthly salary barely enough to pay the rent. The car pulled into the parking lot of the dinner venue. Emily closes the tablet. One more thing. Several members of the board suggested that you demonstrate some tolerance in your acceptance speech, perhaps mentioning the possibility of reconciliation with the family. Interesting, Nathan straightened his perfect tie. These suggestions come from board members who kept their positions by proving ignorance of Oliver's crimes? Indeed. Emily smiled. They seem to have forgotten how they kept their positions in the first place. Upon walking into the venue, Nathan's presence caused an immediate commotion. The cream of the engineering world greeted him, and the cameras of journalists kept flashing. Once known as a workaholic, this man is now an industry legend. What about that new junior engineer? Nathan asked suddenly, the one you found out last month that he was leaking information to a competitor. It's been taken care of. Emily's voice held a hint of coldness. We sent evidence anonymously to the board of a competitor that showed he'd been playing double agent. He was fired this afternoon, citing ethical issues. Nathan nods. Fitting, considering he tried to pull the same trick Oliver did. Emily's smile was tinged with appreciation. The company's ethics compliance training now includes a special section. Every new employee is required to learn it, though not the official version, but the one that's been circulating in private about what will eventually happen to the person who betrays Nathan Porter. The dinner is about to begin, and participants are taking their seats. Nathan stood by the makeshift stage, waiting for his acceptance speech. Engineering Innovations magazine wanted to do another feature story focusing on how he turned a personal betrayal into a professional pinnacle. Approve the report, he said to Emily, and make sure they mention where Oliver is now. The one with the barred windows. Applause erupted as Nathan stepped up to the podium. He stood at the microphone, his eyes sweeping over the reverent faces that filled the room. 5 years ago, when he began his revenge plan, no one could have predicted the scene today. Everyone who betrayed him is paying the price for their choices, and his success is the best revenge. Emily stood on the stage and watched her boss receive the trophy from the chairman. Her phone vibrated again. Prison update. Oliver applied for an engineering education program, but the application was denied after the warden received an anonymous letter detailing his history of corporate espionage. Nathan just nodded slightly. 5 years later, his plan for revenge is still working with precision. Each tiny cog turns silently, continuing to wear down the betrayers. The parents will watch the award show from their modest Florida apartment. Oliver will read about it in his cell. Sarah will see the news in her dilapidated apartment, and Alexandra will find out about it while working on legal documents. And Nathan? He would continue to build his empire, his reputation climbing, and only a very few knew never to offend the quiet man, the one who plotted in silence and delivered the killing blow without moving. The elevator took them down to the lobby, where Nathan straightened his tie and prepared to receive another honor while his enemies continued their eternal penance. What he learns is that the sweetest revenge is not just destroying those who betrayed him, but continuing to grow as they wither, building monuments as they sink. To make sure that every day of their lives is a reminder that the morning they once thought they could destroy Nathan Porter was actually the beginning of their self-destruction. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.